Hi, and hello. It's very interesting points that the former speaker made. Speaking so long, I can actually speak shorter, which is also good. Just shortly about myself. I'm mostly a jazz musician. I love jazz, meaning improvised music. But to be able to perform jazz, I made some songs. To do something with those songs, I needed a band. To make an album, I recorded it, of course, to be able to get some concerts. To do it properly, I made my own record company. And from there on, I got an agent working. And finally, now, as the sort of the whole music distribution is ending, I created also a sales place for music on the internet called Bugge Music. And it's most of it has gone much better than I ever expected. The first 10 years of Jazzland, we sold more than 500,000 copies of Norwegian jazz, which I think is quite amazing, actually. But the important thing in all this is kind of why I did this. It's the decision. Somewhere in the early 90s, I decided to focus on my own music. And that decision was very important because that led to everything else. And I decided also when I first now would concentrate on doing something on my own, I would do that fully. So that's why I did all the other things basically, you know. I recorded an album, I started a group, I started a record company, I started touring to really think ahead and to be dedicated for my music, which I think is a necessity and incredibly essential when you choose for various reasons to do your own music. The starting point for me was meeting in 1990. I was lucky to play with R.L. Anderson and Jan Garbarek in the same year. And meeting those people was sort of the turning point for me, you know, because I met suddenly artists, Norwegian jazz musicians and artists who were worldwide recognized for their own music, actually living out of playing their own music. I never thought that was possible even. My father is a jazz guitarist. He always taught me to be skilled, to learn a lot of music, and sort of because living off your own music would be impossible. But meeting these people changed my view on that, and also seeing how that dedication and focus they had put into their own musical careers made that uniquity that they all have. It was a very, very learnful skill. I have no education. Thanks for inviting me anyway. And it's both. I regret it. I wish I had some education. I never even learned to play piano. But on the other hand, I was through these meetings with Ariel, Jon, Terry Rypdal, those amazing musicians. That was my teaching period, and I think that cannot be underestimated. Having the possibility to perform with artists, with musicians on a much higher level than yourself, it's crucial for trying to understand what music is about. Because of course, before that I was listening to music all the time, from when I was like 4 or 5 years old, trying to understand what's going on. But to actually be playing concerts with people, with musicians of that level, that was, it cannot be underestimated how important that is. Because most of all, jazz music, or music at all, of course, but jazz or even art in general. Most of all, it's beyond, of course, the necessary things like skills, harmony, understanding, that stuff. Most of all, it's a kind of a communication form. And those few who really know how to control that communication and the energy of the music. I mean, I personally believe that the value and relevance of art is in the meeting with the viewer or the listener. So when you play a concert, the actual quality of that concert is in the middle of the audience and what's going on stage. And if you know this, and if you manage to control and be aware of that, and at the same time it's making improvised music for the moment, which is the unique thing about jazz, you will be a very good artist, I think, very good jazz musician. I think today probably Keith Jarrett is the most relevant example of a person that really controls that and holds the knowledge of that energy. And yeah, it's something which is difficult to learn, I think. I mean, as I'm not studied, I don't know how the education systems work, but I think this is a difficult thing to study without actually doing it live, doing it in practical life. So, but just again, which I'm going to focus in my speech is about that kind of decision, focus, long-term thinking when you choose to do your own music. That brings me to the next line, which is today's jazz. And today's jazz scene is, of course, very interesting. I mean, I'm very proud of being a part of the Nordic or the Norwegian jazz scene. It's kind of unique in the sense that it's a kind of a personal thing. I mean, in Norway you'll find mixes of all kinds of stuff, jazz with metal rock, with electronic music, where sort of I come from, with contemporary music, with traditional music. And the reason behind all this is probably this: in Norway there exists a culture of really spending energy searching for your own personal voice in the music. And this is something that would have to say my godfather in music, John Christensen, always told us, you know, you don't try to play like Americans, or don't try to play American jazz. Try to find your own way of playing, which is very, very well said, actually. I realized that very clearly. I was in New York with Arild Andersen, early 90s, 91 or something. And at late night we went down to a jazz club, I think it was Bradley's, and we went to see a piano player who I think it was Kirk Lightsey. And listening to that was so... he was just sitting there. It was like a cozy little bar, not that many people. He was playing standard jazz. I never even heard about him before. But it was so beautiful, so natural. Such a natural flow in the music. And I thought to myself, this type of music belongs to them, to him, to his generation. I can never play like that. Even if I learned exactly how to play that kind of music, I would never sound like him. I would never have that natural energy in the music. It's a very, very learnful thing, actually. And what came to my mind then, of course, just as Jon Christensen already had said, if I want to do something with my own music, I have to find my own personal way of thinking music, of finding where I'm coming from. And I think in Norway that's a general term which is really, really great. What is interesting also, that's something with you mentioned before here, is that this kind of US protected jazz is an American art form, etc. Which is, I love American jazz, I think it's absolutely fantastic. But it's a true fact that American jazz has been taking in influences from other kinds of music through all times. Particularly after World War I, where a lot of American black soldiers, marching bands stayed around Paris, and that meeting of the gypsy swing and the American marching band really changed American jazz from being more slow tempo, funky, to be more up tempo swing. And also probably the most significant album in the jazz history, Kind of Blue, Miles Davis, has a genuine European touch to it. Came after him spending 1 or 2 years in Europe, and to me it sounds deeply European. So obviously it's a mix, and that's the unique thing with jazz, I think. The ability to always take up in its music other inspirations. That's kind of the true nature of jazz, isn't it? Stealing from everyone. It's take inspiration. That's why we are jazz musicians, because we are spontaneous. We hear something and we can do something with it. So it's very important to us to remember. So about today's Norwegian music scene, as I said, I'm very proud of it. But we are a lot of people. There's, I think, around 60 students being educated every year on a high level of jazz. We have fundings, of course, which is also very necessary in Norway. We're an extremely small country. We need fundings to be able to have a Norwegian scene of art or of music in general. The way I will talk about later is how maybe we could spend those money in different ways. One wish I have for the Norwegian scene is in the terms of exporting Norwegian jazz. This is, in my opinion, too much a one-way directional thing at the moment. There's really a lot of good, new and young, exciting jazz happening around the world. And I think we are not always good enough in Norway to bring back those other people. An extremely important thing with jazz is the community thing. Because of the inspirations, of course, but the networking community, because jazz is a small but very vibrant and global community which we have to keep and preserve. So please, people who's arranging music, who's doing concerts, bring in those in Switzerland, UK, Germany is really evolving, and of course the new young New York scene. So it's very urgent. Sometimes I feel almost embarrassed with all this Norwegian jazz coming everywhere, and we're not taking back enough stuff. Next point is the record business. I was supposed to talk about record business and future technology and stuff. And I made a little thing here. Record business, is it still existing? At some stage, I can see this from my own, when I started, when I decided to do my own first album, I got small little funding. And the studios were way too expensive, but at the same time, I decided I bought my own recording equipment. Cheap, good sounding, this was already in the 90s. And to me, in my opinion, it sounded better than what I could do in the studio, actually. And this kind of paradigm shift in technology has made it so much more easier to make music. Everyone can basically make an album, which is super cool in one way, because it allows talents everywhere to record their own. There's a program in the Norwegian radio called Urørt, which the talents from all over can send in their music. It's so much fantastically high quality music coming from the smallest places around Norway. Very impressive and very touching, I think. And I'm absolutely sure this is going on all over the world. So that's a very good thing. The bad thing, of course, is that it's so many CDs, so many recordings, so many albums coming out. Just imagine for a journalist to be able to listen to all that music, it's impossible. And as a record company, my own experience with all this music is very difficult. So there's a reason. I mean, people stopped making, but listeners kind of stopped buying music. It's just too much in the end. It's difficult to focus, difficult to find your music. So do we need record companies? Why don't we just allow it the way that everyone makes an album and is happy with that? I think we need record companies, and I think we need good agents. I think we need good festivals. I think we need those curators, kind of selectors, which is a difficult word, selectors. But Selectors is also about, as I want to mention again, this decisions from an artist. When you make an album, there should be something special behind it. Why do I want to make an album? Is it because just I want to document, I'm so fantastic, I need to document my music. I want to go to Japan to play. It's not enough, in my opinion. You need, at least for having a record company, which is kind of still there, you need to have artists that are dedicated. You need to have an artist that choose to make an album, to choose to make a band, and to work with that band. If you look at kind of who's successful, and I'm thinking, I mean, within jazz, I see most jazz as high quality music anyway. So let's not discuss like good or bad jazz and stuff. But the ones that are successful, it could be Nils Petter Molvær, it could be Espen Svensson Trio. All those are bands who dedicated themselves to work with that particular project and nothing else. And that makes it easy for a festival to select that band, or not the other 9 bands that the same members are participating in. I've seen a tendency actually in Norway for the last 5 years again in the jazz scene to dedicate themselves to the band. We're going to hear a couple of them later today. We already heard Moskus, there's Splash Girl, there's other groups that go for that focus. And I think it's really needed. I know that from myself, from my own experience, when I decided to go with my own music, that was the absolutely most important thing, was that decision. I decided from now on I will really concentrate on my own music. So where will that lead us? I think record business is a necessity. It is important for music, even if it's exploiting, which is very often is, of course. Now we have a system where we are going towards, I mean, the CD is dead, whether you like it or not. We can sell CDs after concert, but as a business idea, I mean, most record companies are driven still from making money. Of course, for love of music, but they need to make some money to keep the record company going. The CD is no business anymore, so it's going to digital. And also pointed out by a previous talker, that kind of change from opening a vinyl, that kind of experience for listening, it's now changing to just you press a button and you hear something, and it's so easy to just scroll. You hear 1 minute, you scroll to the next. So there's very interesting how we're going to bring back that listening experience. How are we going to make music important again? Because music is everywhere. And I believe music is very important. Music has fantastic energy in general, and of course jazz, which I love. But it takes energy and time to listen to, and we have to kind of find ways to make people again sit down and concentrate on listening to the music, even if it's digital. So that's kind of one of the questions that's have to be answered and will be answered, because in general, I mean, the music interest is bigger than ever. So many people are into music. And also very interesting for me is to see that so many young people, they don't care whether it's jazz or rock or whatever, they just listen to music, which is really cool. I like that. Lately in Scandinavia we have streaming services which is now evolving over to the rest of the world. It's Spotify, Wimp, others. It's a fantastic system for the listener. They can access all kinds of music which they couldn't be able to listen to because it was hard to get. Now they can hear it. But do they hear it? Generally, no. They end up with Elton John because there's still not the right tools to approach these interested people to find their own music. But this, I'm sure, this will come. Also, the sound quality is still too bad, I think. I mean, my page, Bugge Music, which has been going on now since the mid-90s, we have been offering full CD quality and higher from the first moment. And still, we are one of the absolutely few stores, net stores in the world, who's offering a better sound quality than MP3. And MP3 is ugly and it does something to you. And I think one of the things to bring back that enthusiasm for listening and experiencing music is bring back that quality of sound. I mean, you may disagree, but the vinyl had a certain quality of sound. There was a warmth, there was even a distortion, which is amazing. That MP3s, this doesn't sound good. So this is one way of doing it. Where were I? Yes, and of course, again, I think the kind of the new internet medias, the new distributing ways of distributing art will go to internet, and the exploitation thing is back again. Because if you look at the owners of YouTube, of Spotify, they become the richest people in the world. By all those people, the reason for having that pages, you know, the reason why people go to these pages is because young talents, and all kinds of them, put out their stuff almost for free to become someone, or to have because it's deeply in need for anyone who makes something, music, art. They want to be seen. They want to be not as a person, but they want to express something. It's an expression, and they want to get the feedback on what they do. So this is very 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 typical, very. Yeah, anyway, with the streaming service, I have no beliefs in. I think it's the end of record industry as we know it, which is maybe good, but it's a fact. I mean, small jazz labels will never make money on streaming services. No way. Even if anyone heard it, the system is not built for that type of music. So we have to make alternatives, and it's going to be very interesting, but I don't fear anything, because, as I said, the interest for music is larger than ever. So that's really cool. Lastly, I have again a small wish to a little talk about the funding system of Norway, which I think again is very very important. We are so small, we need fundings, but we should talk about how we choose to fund things. For example, now, to make a record, we can apply at or go for a tour. I think we found out that there's around 270 various places where you can apply for money for doing something. And the only common thing with them is you get really little money. You get like 5,000 there, 10,000 there. So, to be able to provide a living for doing art and music in Norway, you have to be incredibly productive. You have to very often participate in a lot of bands, which is good perhaps on the creative thing, and it's good for production, and it's for the government. It's good that it's a lot of activity everywhere. But it doesn't really help the quality of music, I think, because to become a really good musician, or to be able to make really good music, that takes a long time. And then we come back to my beginning words again, the decision, the dedication, and the long-term thinking. It has to be allowed. So I would really look into that fact that one should give more fundings to some bands, you know, it has that kind of dedication. It should be a part of the plans. Another thing is very important in Norway again, is to look for good scenes, good arenas for performing music. If you look back in history again, on some of the most successful Norwegian scenes, and the music that was created around those scenes would probably be Club 7 in Oslo, who mostly all of those Jan and Arild and the whole scene was amazingly evolving at that time. Blå is another example, which was really happening, creating a lot of fuss and a lot of good music and a lot of activity around it. So supporting, search for scenes like that, and also the right kind of dedicated people who is necessarily not a musician, maybe, or also a musician, but also has that ability to connect people. You know, it's very urgent. So yeah, that was it. Thank you.